The 6 Reds World Championships, it's just like the regular World Championships except there are only 6 Reds, and as you'd expect we're looking to find the very best shot from this event by attempting to recreate all the main contenders as accurately as possible and then play them in the fewest possible attempts. But we're beginning with home favourite Thepchaiya Un-Nooh, who made it all the way to the final with great pots like this one down the cushion. I'm just looking to stun this long red in with backspin, which is easier said than done because of its position on the table. I had a similar shot in last week's video that took me 9 attempts, so getting it in just 2 is actually really good. James Wattana's bringing the blue into play now, which gives him a chance to get in position on the green and clear the table. This is a really clever match-winning shot that ultimately allowed James to get out of his group. I was really happy to get the balls in the right place that allowed me to play it on my first attempt with a pretty decent outcome. Ronnie O'Sullivan's escaping from a snooker here, but he has to play this around 4 cushions and land perfectly on the red to avoid leaving his opponent a chance. Ronnie was really trying hard and he was probably the tournament favourite after winning his group. As usual with any snooker escape, it makes it a lot easier for me to see what a player's done and just try to repeat it. But unfortunately this didn't work on my first attempt and I was a long way out, so I made a big correction on my second, and this just happened to be the perfect angle. I played it a little bit hard, but you couldn't actually see any other reds. Noppon Saengkham's using a cannon to create a chance for himself next as he looks to get back into the match against Stuart Bingham. This is a relatively straightforward shot, but a good one in the context of the match, but see if you can spot what I get wrong on my first attempt. I tried to stun it along the cushion and got the double kiss, so on my second attempt I played with a lot more backspin and thinner and it worked a lot better. A big swerve is needed now from Judd as he looks to try to close out his last 16 match against Mark Williams. Good kiss. Because I'm not playing on a superfine match cloth, this should be the one type of shot that's actually easier for me to make the cue ball spin across the table, but somehow I missed the red on my first attempt, and on my second I followed it through and off. Even though I was trying to cannon the black like Judd did as the cue ball went across the table, I knew this was very unlikely, so I was pretty happy just to get in good position. Junhui's escaping from a snooker now, and this one shot made a huge difference in his last 16 match against Ronnie O'Sullivan. Had Ding missed the red altogether or left it on, then Ronnie would have probably cleared up for 4-3, but as it was, this was a comfortable 5-2 lead, which Ding was ultimately able to capitalise on. Notice how close I got to potting the red on my first attempt, because I didn't really find this one too difficult to actually strike the red, but potting it was becoming a real challenge. How this works is if you stun or screw the cue ball into the cushion, then it makes it straighten up a little bit, but why I was having such difficulty with this shot is if you struck the cushion just before the middle pocket and played it as a stun shot, you missed the red, but if you just about screwed it, you hit the red a little bit too thick, and finding that compromise actually took me a number of shots. I felt I possibly should have got this a lot sooner, but it really wasn't easy, and it's certainly the hardest shot I've had to play so far. Hossein Vafaei finds a really nice offset plant now as he looks to win the frame he needs against Thepchaiya Un-Nooh to get into the final. Ultimately he fell short after losing this frame on the black and Thepchaiya coming back to win a close decider. But for me the big problem was the setup. I didn't have the reds anywhere near the right place on my first attempt, so I actually missed by a long way. My second attempt was a lot better. I had the reds in a lot better position, but I didn't like the outcome, so I had another go, and on my third attempt not only did I get the plant, I actually played the red into the brown as well, which is exactly what happened on the real shot. Junhui now pulling off a really awkward double in a crucial frame against Ronnie O'Sullivan. This one really could have turned the match. Ronnie looked to be dominating the game at this stage, but Ding just about kept hanging in there and pulled off some great shots that actually allowed him to run away with it. And this is definitely one of those shots, because although it seems easy, it's actually at a really awkward angle, and I was pretty happy to get it after 3 attempts because it's actually a lot harder than it seems. Ken Doherty manages to pull off this brilliant exhibition shot on the black, even though he's really struggling in his match against Hossein Vafaei. He wouldn't have been intending to go in off, but as he did, I'm looking to do the same, although there's going to be a problem that's going to make that a lot harder that I didn't realise until later on. The shot itself is mainly guesswork, and you have to allow for the black to go around the white so you don't get an unfortunate double kiss. But the reason I wasn't getting anywhere near the bottom pocket with a cue ball is because for some reason I was playing with right hand side, and the shot didn't need this, but the big question is which is the cheekiest double. Cue the music. This is incredibly close because Ding's shot was harder than it looked and he played it at a really crucial time, whereas Ken's shot was just a lot more difficult but didn't really matter too much. So they both receive 4 cheeky chilies, but I think Ding just takes the win here. Chris Wakelin's next and he needs snookers, but he actually manages to angle his opponent behind the jaw of the middle pocket. It doesn't end up tight against the jaw, so it's a pretty comfortable shot for Robert Milkins to swerve out of, which he comfortably does, but it's a quirky shot that I wanted to have a go at. And my first attempt was close, but you just about could see the edge of the green, so I had to go again, and after my second shot being rubbish, my third one was pretty much perfect. Thepchaiya Un-Nooh pots the black up into the green pocket in this next exhibition shot, but he does so from a really awkward angle.
Rather showy black, and gets it.
If you look at where the white was, you can see why he played it like this, because the in-off would have probably been close if he played it in the top pocket or possibly even the middle. But it's the angle here that's really challenging. It's just thin enough to make it really awkward, and I had a very difficult time finding the correct angle on this one. But it does show how well Thepchaiya was playing and why he was ultimately able to get into the final against Ding. Although this shot's completely meaningless and all you've really got to do is pot the ball, I actually found it one of the most challenging and never thought I was going to pot it, so 6 attempts is probably pretty good. Next up, Hossein Vafaei is looking to play from green to brown around the angles with the rest, and he does so with absolute precision. He didn't always look dominant in this knockout match against Judd Trump, but kept pulling out the big shots that ultimately allowed him to get over the line. Annoyingly, this took me a few attempts to get the right angle, but I was playing the shot slightly wrong, because initially I thought the best way to get around the blue was to play it with left hand side, but unfortunately this dropped me down the wrong side of the brown. I quickly realised if I wanted to get around the back of it, I needed to play this as a stun shot, which took me a few more attempts to get the angle right, but eventually I got really close to the right angle, although I didn't quite hit it hard enough on my 7th attempt, so I wasn't able to play it thin enough to pot the ball, so I had to try again, and I actually thought I got it on my very next attempt, but I ended up hitting the brown, and this shot turned into a bit of a nightmare as I was trying to put on the exact right amount of backspin on the cue ball, and kept slightly overdoing it. Eventually on my 11th attempt I got it around the back of the brown. It wasn't quite hard enough, but I could still easily pot it, and after all that, that's definitely good enough. A nice snooker being played now by 2014 Six Reds World Champion Kritsanut Lertsattayatthorn. I'm going to have to play the cue ball around the cushions perfectly here to get this one right. And I may have mispronounced his name there, so I'm sorry about that, but this is actually quite a fascinating snooker, because you need to play it with a small amount of right hand side, which slows the cue ball down off the baulk cushion, but it's the only way you keep the cue ball low enough down the table in order to keep it behind the pink. I was very close to getting this on my first two attempts. I went a little bit short on the first one and a lot too far on the second one. This was definitely an awkward shot, playing down the table with side like this, and on my fourth attempt I was actually able to get it in behind the pink, although I did use an extra cushion, but it's tight in behind there. We've got another Thepchaiya Un-Nooh shot coming up next, right after we find Rami, who's in Coffs Harbour in Australia, which is right about there in that gap. This was actually his match-winning shot in his really tense match against Hossein Vafaei in the semi-final, and he thought he'd overhit this, but he could just about cut the red back into the pocket.
What a shot!
Not necessarily the most difficult of shots, but good when you consider it's a match winner, so let's see if I can judge the side spin and the speed off the cushion. And I also managed to get it right over the pocket and could just about cut it back. So for the results, and this was really close, but I felt third place had to go to James Wattana with this really clever match-winning shot. Second place goes to Hossein Vafaei, and this was such a good positional shot at a crucial time in his match against Judd. But first place goes to Junhui's snooker escape. If he'd missed it, Ronnie O'Sullivan would probably have cleared up and won the frame, so you could even say this was possibly a championship winning shot. So even if you missed it, you now know roughly what happened at the Six Reds World Championships. And if you want to see me recreating more shots from previous championships, have a look at these two videos. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.